agenda to pass out.
Which is
This morning we have a few items. There is an open meetings law posted on the wall over there. Diane, do you want to take a roll, please?
Ferguson,
Here.
Morgan,
here.
Levy,
Yes, here.
Gray,
Here.
Christensen, absent.
Paul Cohen for John Christensen.
Yes. Item 1, approval of minutes of the October 31st, 2018 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Ferguson,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Item 2, public comments. Are there any public comments? Hello? I'm sorry?
Should I sit here or?
You can just,
Whatever you prefer.
wherever you're comfortable, that's fine.
My name is Carol Zajac, and I came to this meeting because I do want to hear more about the about this project. But I would like to make the suggestion that you allow the public comments to be at the end of the meeting, so we have the opportunity to have discourse in the event that perhaps we disagree with something that is in one of the presentations and things like that, because it's kind of not fair to make public comments first when we don't even have necessarily something to talk about. So that's one. Secondly, two things. It came to my attention when I toured the juvenile detention center last week that these children actually don't spend all day, in shackles, et cetera, et cetera. They're usually only gone for like 2 to 4 hours tops, and they make sure that they eat before they leave. So it's really not as traumatic as has been portrayed. Secondly, putting a juvenile detention center still downtown concerns me because I work at the Orpheum, the Holland, the CenturyLink Center. I work in all those venues. People don't want to spend money on an expensive ticket to come see something and come eat down here and pay for their parking and everything else when there is a jail downtown. So those are things that I really want addressed because currently the current detention center is in a very good place as far as location. So that's my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to make a statement.
Go ahead.
I don't have a problem with doing it later in the meeting.
Okay.
I mean,
We'll move that the
doesn't
next
matter.
time.
We
That
can
would be
move it the
great.
next
I
time.
appreciate that.
Yep,
Great.
absolutely. Any other public comments?
Do I need to state my name?
Yes. Yes.
My name is Tyler Wilson, I'm a resident of Omaha. I have a couple things. So it's been referred to that the reason that we set up a 501c3 for this project was because it worked so well for the Buffett Cancer Center, the UNC did, which is a great project. It does a lot of great things. My question is since that model worked so well there, and we're trying to duplicate that here, 72% of the funding for that project was donated or fundraised. So I'm curious to find out when the 72% of this project is going to be donated or fundraised. If you do the math on that, 72% of that is roughly $100 million. So I would like to know where $100 million in donations is going to come from to replicate the Buffett Cancer Center project. The other comment or question I have yet to see a strategic plan for the juvenile justice system within Douglas County. I think it'd be really great to see that, if there is one. I'd also like to see a strategic plan for Douglas County on the side of the facility itself as to where the strategic plan is for the allocated number of beds, all of that, all the, the sizing of the detention cells, the sizing of the facility as a whole. We've seen schematics and we've seen, some rough measurements, but we have never really seen a strategic plan as to, the cell is, for example, like 10 feet by 7 feet. This is why we came up with that. This is the data that shows that that is what we need. There's no strategic plan for that I've seen. So if I could ask that we could maybe get those to look over and be public record if there is one. If there isn't one, then I'd like to see one prepared and presented to the public. So.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah. You know, I'm still Bob Perrin, still live at 1101 South 36th Street. And what I wanted to talk to you about, or a little bit, or make you aware of, is the value of existing buildings. And Bruce and I have talked about this. It turns out that the National Association of Architects President Carl Elefante has actually come out in favor of reusing old buildings instead of building just new ones and tearing down our old stuff. So I have copies of that article. And can you pass this on? For each one of you to take a look at. Basically, it says we're trying to conserve the environment, we're trying to make the world better, we're trying to use our resources as best we can. And one of the ways we do that is reuse buildings that are already here. So instead of taking a brick and smashing it and then going out in the mountain and digging up clay and cooking a new brick using energy and gas and stuff to build it, we might as well use what we already have. So that's an important thing for us to know. The world's changing, and thank God the architectural profession is starting to realize the value of old buildings, not only from a historical standpoint, but from the energy and a good use of our cultural resources. The other thing about old buildings is that they give us a chance to teach kids and new generations about history and about our lives, how we came to where we are, and what steps we made in the process. Having a building is an important part of it, just like having artifacts is important. So what I have here is a picture of a car device. This was actually found in the building. And this little device, I can tell you about it. When cars were built in the 1920s, tires lasted about 3,000 miles. And so we changed the tires all the time. So in order to lift the car up, we had a jack that you made out of cast iron steel. It had a screw top, and we'd rotate this little screw until the car raised up enough to pull the tire off and replace it, which of course always happened on country roads. Well, here's a picture of that jack, so you can really see what it's looked like. Or if the building is there and the jack is there, you can see the jack. You can work it. You can play with it. You can actually figure out how things work. Without this device, it would be almost impossible to communicate the system of changing tires for cars when they were originally built. And that's true with buildings. Without those buildings remaining intact, we can't explain to children and young people how they were built, how they were used, and what they meant. So this is an example of why we hang on to old things. That's real.
Thank you.
I just want to
Thank
make
you.
sure that everybody's up to speed on it.
Thank you. Next on the, or any other public comment?
Yes. Larry Store, 505 Lafayette, and here's some copies of a recent reader article about the juvenile justice system. I just want to comment that it appears in all the proclamations of transparency that I see more transparency about the whole process in that article than I have in the World Herald. And I have a lot of articles about things from the World Herald, but I won't get into that. But I'd also like to say that on the way this morning, I was listening to Mayor Stoddard on Chip Maxwell's program. And one thing stood out was in her comments about the ongoing negotiations as to whether it's going to be your building or now MUD is trying to sell their building, I guess, to make the juvenile justice system, but we don't want to tear it down either. But she made a comment about the area's philanthropics. And now some of us don't work. Some of us listen to radio and read newspapers and things, kind of have an overall view from above as to what's going on in various areas on different topics. And it does seem to me, like in Omaha and Douglas County, possibly even the State House, that there are too many powerful philanthropics that are actually running our government. And these are unelected officials. That's a progressive movement. And I, for one, am anti-progressive. I like our Constitution as it is. I like our citizens being involved as they should be. Uh, And I don't think that we're getting enough transparency on this whole thing. Now, I know, and I presented a copy of a contract that was signed by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners back in 2014 with an organization called Luna, or Terra Luna, being tuitioned and assisted by Susie Buffett Foundation, Sherwood, to study our youth in a juvenile detention center and come up with programs. Well, all I've seen so far has been statistics. And you were nice enough to have it printed in nice colored chart form for us as to how many are detained for what, and how long, and what color they are. But the overall message has been disparity. And I don't like that. That's a divisive thing. And Omaha needs to solve the disparity problem before they get to the Juvenile Justice Center. If my child was there, I would not want you talking to him, gathering facts about him, with or without his permission or mine. Now, I've made a comment about the privacy laws. I do have a grandson that's been in the welfare system, not in the Juvenile Justice Center. However, the process is very similar. And the fact of privacy laws and that you don't want to be sued for saying something that somebody might sue you for, which is very easy, is at the root of a lot of the problems here. Now, if all of our philanthropists have these good programs, why haven't they worked to date? That's my basic center point here. Let them build the buildings. Don't ask them to build the buildings and do their programs from out of state, whatever, at our expense. Let them put their philanthropic money into that. I know from my own grandson's experience that there's been a lack of beds in this city for a long, long time, going back before 2014. And I know from sitting in on some juvenile justice court that kids were sent out of town, sometimes without relatives' knowledge. And that's not constitutional. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Any other public comments? With that, we will move on to any board comments at this time.
I'll make one comment, just based on what I've heard today. Part of the reason why we need to move the Juvenile Justice Center from where it is, and I've said this on I don't know how many occasions, and as I sit here, I don't know anyone in this room more involved with young people than I have been over the years. So I know from dealing with gang members, starting the Step Up program, doing a number of other efforts to address young people and families, because we have to include families when we're talking about addressing young people in crisis. The 42nd Street site, I have constituents, others have constituents in other parts of the district who in many instances have to take 2 and 3 buses to get to 42nd Street. And then if they have to do paperwork or do some other work that requires them to come down here, that's another bus. I have talked to families that have been on the bus as long as 4 hours. That is something that we need to address. And we need to address it from the perspective of families and children and people that have worked in that environment for years. We need to do that. Only comment I'll make. The 42nd Street site is unacceptable. The 42nd Street site hurts families who are trying to engage with young people. Having a one-stop shop, and we've seen it all over the place with Heartland Workforce Solutions and others. We have seen how a one-stop shop has been effective in addressing unemployment, in addressing youth violence, in addressing other problems where you have a one-stop shop. But if you got families running all over the place in an effort to try and help young people, and we continue to create barriers, that ought to be unacceptable to all of us.
Thank you, Ben. TJ?
I just want to make a comment personally that offends me, and that's the constant use of calling this a jail. It's a detention center. When you go to these other cities, and I've been to 3 of them so far, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and then I visited Maricopa County, which has a population of 4,000,002. They run between 180 and 200 use in their 2 facilities with the courts, with the attorneys, everything right on one location, just
One
as you
location.
said, Ben. And certainly, the present facility does look like a jail with the razor wire, et cetera. This is not going to have any different look than the First National Bank Tower, and I think it's a positive step for the families, and most importantly for the youth. And that's the only reason we're here. It isn't to do something for us, but that we think, hey, this is going to be great if we can build this. Think how proud we'll be or whatever. What makes us proud is if we can turn it around for these young people, to give them that opportunity and not be in some cycle where this is going to be repeated. And that's what I believe in talking to the judges, the attorneys, leaders, and community people, families. This is what's going to make the difference. And Ben, I respect greatly, your work with the young people. And also, Mary Ann, you've worked on this for more than 10 years. And Chris Rogers also, big time. And so that's what this is really about. It's not about us. It's about what we can do better for the young people that are held in detention, period. And it's too bad so many people don't understand that and continue to use the word jail and all of those kinds of words. I'm really tired of that. And I think it's a positive step. And we just need to continue to have our discussions and work toward what's best for the young people.
Thank you, TJ. Any other board comments? Seeing none, we'll move to project overview by Don.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Since we last met, we talked about the production and continuation of the schematic design with HDR and the project team. That has been completed for what I call the library site or the 18th Street site. That has been delivered. I believe there's copies available in the commissioner's office. So that's been a big milestone step. Recently, there has been some conversations relevant to the potential, the contingency for a site at the MUD block or location, essentially from 17th to 18th Street. We've had some discussion on that. That's very preliminary right now. There's process that's being taken. But I think Bruce was going to share just a very high-level overview of the concept of what we're talking about there. This will be future consideration for board, but at least an update as far as some of the things that are transpiring. And that's news that everybody's read, I'm sure, and is aware of. So, Bruce, if you would, please.
Chris?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. And following Don's comments, we have taken a look with the recent discussions that have been in the public regarding the MUD site. We have taken an early look, and this is actually a site that we explored early last year, and so we do have a fair understanding of it to start with. And based on the fact that we've completed schematic design, we were able to reuse the dimensions of the buildings that we've been working with on what we're calling the library site, the site west of 18th Street. So what this allows is reusing the MUD building as part of the program space, so renovating the building to be a part of the Justice Center complex. And you can see the MUD building in the upper left-hand corner. So Harney is the top of the page, Howard is the bottom, 18th on the left, and 17th on the right. So the MUD building, and between the MUD building and then the new Courts Tower or Justice Center on the upper right, we have space to create a public plaza that would have trees and shade and a reflecting pool and elements that you would expect around a Justice Center and that would be available to the public. And then on the south and connected to the tower would be the youth center, and in this arrangement it actually allows for more daylight or more around almost the entire perimeter of the youth center, which is really probably an advantage. It gives a little more opportunity for daylight, which is important in the sleep rooms for the youth center. As Councilman Gray very eloquently stated, the idea is to have an improvement on the juvenile justice system, and that improvement comes in efficiency of not having to move the kids for 2 to 4 hours. And it may be a 20-minute visit that they need, and they're able to accomplish that in real time. And even though they're fed before they're moved, it's still, a study has shown it's a traumatic experience for the kids. So what we're looking at is reducing the trauma and having trauma-informed design to reduce that, and more of a restorative environment for the kids. And so we're able to accomplish all that on this site, and also continue to move forward based on the work that's been done in the meetings with all of the users that have taken place over the last few months. This is more of a hardline drawing. It's similar. It shows the roof area of the youth center on the west end of the building, and still the connection to the Justice Center, and the connection to the Hall of Justice, which is important for the movement of the attorneys, as the blue line above across Harney Street, and then also the plaza. So this shows in a little more detail a small park on the corner of 17th and Howard as well. That is across from the park at the end of the Flatiron property. And then some early images. These aren't quite ready for prime time, but the idea is having this plaza and a covered connection between the MUD building and the new tower for the Justice Center, having access directly across Harney Street, and the massing. The building, the Justice Center, is a couple stories less because we're renovating the MUD building and putting part of the program into the MUD building. So that's kind of some early look at the idea and the use of the MUD site, since it's been discussed, we wanted to make sure that it could accommodate the program and the facility, still have a direct connection between the courts and the youth center that allows easy movement for the kids. The idea still is to reduce the number and the amount of time that the kids are in the detention center and find alternatives. And we do have time to continue to develop those programs. If it is a lack of space to go, then we need to address that, because these kids, the idea of detention is not to keep them there for long periods of time, and studies have shown that there should be alternatives. The county's been working on that since 2013. It was identified that Nebraska was in the top 3 for the amount of kids in detention, and so that's where we need to have a strong focus to assist in changing the system. The buildings provide the efficient arrangement of the spaces, but we need to continue to work on the programs and policies. And there has been movement forward with some collaboration for psychiatric assessment that will make a difference. The expediter that's been appointed, a lot of positive things are going on to help reduce the number and the amount of time that the kids are in the system. I think having this in an urban area and changing the perception from a jail, as Commissioner Morgan said, these are kids in our community, and the perception should be that this is a restorative environment and not a dangerous environment. So that's what I have this morning.
Thank you. Any comments for Bruce or questions? If not, we don't really have that on the agenda right now, but we won't respond, but go ahead and ask your question.
So I can ask it, but I won't be responding.
If you want, we'll respond at a later time, but go ahead since it's not on the agenda correctly. I'm going to allow you to say it, so go ahead.
So my question with the, I guess, alternative site or new site, whatever you're going to call it, does it still fit within the same budget as the library site?
Well, we can answer that one with just yes.
Yes.
Do we have new numbers for that yet?
Not in detail, conceptual, but
We know enough that it'll fit within the budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, we have some action items.
So I'm actually going to take these in reverse order because I think part of this, and first I'm grateful you're all here as board members. This is a grand undertaking, so I appreciate you coming. We've heard mention of the Cancer Center project, and that was the starting point for the idea. I will tell you the team-based approach is real, and that's essentially the item C. So the team worked together over the weekend, and I should thank the team. Contracts to do the project. So as the board, that will be the question in front of you. As is the custom and how we've done it, we go ahead here
that exhibit will come back to the full board at a public session so that you know the answer to the question that was asked. Is this within budget? Because that is the other advantage of the integrated project services. We're all striving together for that. This board, the Public Building Commission, the county, and your project team are working for that express purpose, to get done on time and on budget. And that's different than how we've always done it, perhaps. But the advantage of that, and again, it's not to say this is the only way to do it. It's not. But I think you're seeing it today in the ability of the project team to say, we value teamwork enough to tell you we're ready to go.
Any questions on that? I think, and while we appreciate the,
Right after the meeting, or something, we received that agreement. Oh, you have meetings.
We were working on it over the weekend.
Yeah,
I don't know that you need a motion.
My judgment, I think what we got to have is some sort of some measurement or policy or goal or something that we need to try and strive and hit. I'll give you an example. When CHI did the clinic project over on 24th and Cummings Street, there was an expressed effort at the beginning of the project to have someone that oversaw the diversity and inclusion and how those contracts were written so that there was an opportunity for minority and female participation. I want to know when that's going to happen. If that doesn't happen with
Our intent is to sit with and not overlooking anything.
Thank you. I'd like to very much be a part of that.
You will be.
Motion adjourned.
Yes. Send, you know,
No, I know.
even with 50%. So they're trying to get another meeting.
Yes.
So,
And so we're gonna take a break real fast.
yeah, let's, we have copies of the contract here.
Yep.
If you want to stop by and we'll get those to you.